allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pam, do you have any updates on state projects?
There are no updates on state properties this meeting.
Excellent.
Just one
Go
question,
ahead.
if I may. Have we had any correspondence with the State Department of Highways as far as landscaping around the salt barn? This is prime season for that to be accomplished.
Landscaping around the salt pond?
Salt barn,
Oh, salt barn, no, we
The
have
shed.
not. Jeff, have you had any? No, we have not. I
maybe you can
haven't.
shoot them a memo or something, because this is prime landscaping season. Those things should be going in by now.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
A couple of things. I wanted to make an announcement. We have a big day in town tomorrow. We have a primary on the Democratic side for a state representative District 33 race. I want to mention it tonight because there are 3 voting districts for the town of Narragansett, and the people who usually vote at Canachet at the North Beach Clubhouse will actually be coming here to the Narragansett Town Hall to be voting. And in the other precinct, people who usually vote at Metuxet, so if everybody at home, if you vote at Metuxet, you're going to be voting at the Narragansett Community Center. And people voting at St. Veronica's, they will still be voting at St. Veronica's. Last year was the first year of voting at St. Veronica's. So those are the locations for that, and the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. All right, so good luck to everybody tomorrow. Good luck, Susan.
Thank you.
And I wanted to mention that an event was held on Friday night, which was the Taste of the Towers event. It was a very well, I was able to luckily attend that event, was very fortunate, and a good place where the Friends of the Towers puts that on, and the Towers Committee. So just wanted to give congratulations to them for an event well run. And with that being said, if any, we're going to move to our open forum portion of the meeting. If there's any people who want to speak on matters that are of importance in Narragansett, please come forward now. Stan.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I hear a lot about the student problems, so I'm going to talk a little bit about it because the budget comes next. And I try to gather some data to see, what are we doing here? And I guess we got 2,700 houses, and 7 months is 210 days. We have 567,000 student house days. That's what I call them, student house days. These are the number of days that students are living in a house, okay? And from what I hear, we've had 35 stickers. So we've had 35 violations for 567,000 days. Sometimes I just think we just get confused on what important issues are. Is this really a significant issue? We're spending over $200,000 in rental registering people. What I feel is a very negative issue to register me and other people. So you're registering people and spending over $200,000 for 35 real issues. I've said that before, and people go, well, yeah, there's a lot of other police calls, so 35 isn't really, you've got a couple of hundred, maybe 500 other calls to these houses. Well, I think a few years ago I heard that we've had 1,600 or so medical assist calls for old people, too. More medical assist calls than fire. Therefore, if we're going to draw an analogy, are we going to start getting after these old people that are causing a disruption in our fire? It's not a fire, it's a medical assist. Okay? So it's just not fair. There's no fairness here as far as a registration, and we need to get rid of that costly waste of government, waste of our money, waste of taxpayers' money, if you will. Now, if you want to look at it from another direction, you say, okay, who's really at fault here? You know who's at fault? It's the town that allows people to sell the booze to the children. School-age children are drinking booze. We are selling booze, alcohol, a drug, to school-age children. That's what we're doing. That's the problem. I've said it before, I'll say it again. And what's coming down the road is the state's allowing or wanting to allow marijuana. All of a sudden, that's coming down the road. So now we have a second drug of choice. These are the real problems. You're going to target landlords, and the real problem is a drug problem. Therefore, you're never going to solve it in this direction. So I hope you will change your direction in trying to solve this problem. Maybe one idea is no student can buy booze in Narragansett. Anyone who's going to school can't buy booze. And I don't know if I told you before, though, my best friend in college, died at 25 years old. Dropped out of school after 2 years. His mother told my mother he died from alcohol issues. So it's really a life and death situation with some people. It's a serious thing, not a landlord problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Richard?
Well, last meeting, I talked about the need for planning for both Gansett Days and the previous week, which sounds like a real nice Chamber of Commerce event. And a number of people spoke, and they said that, I know the Narragansett Historical Society had a small meeting in late September. I believe it was a Saturday or Sunday, and we had immense problems because it was a nice beach day. And I urge you again to perhaps think now of something, some sort of a transportation system, some sort of a traffic flow, something to make those two events in this September successful. Nothing is more counterproductive than someone to drive down from somewhere to get to Narragansett and then find everything impassable, not know where to park, and hence what we receive as a black eye. So somehow we really have to think about this, and we have to assume that there will be a maximum crowd at the beach. Those parking lots will be filled. And then how do we handle an influx of people for these events on those weekends? It's something that will take some time to do, and it's got to be done in conjunction with schools, with football games, with other things going on. We have to know now so we can get a good plan, perhaps some sort of agreement with the state at Scarborough to use, or which may be crowded, or Roger Wheeler Beach, or somehow. We have to be able to handle an influx of cars for these two magnificent events.
Thank you, Richard. Al?
Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. Seniors are never a problem. In fact, if the more seniors we can keep here, the better off we are, because they don't cost the town hardly anything, and they bring revenue into the town. And also, last time they mentioned about building an ice skating ring, and maybe.
I was so sad you weren't here.
Yes.
I went all in on that one, Al. What, do you like my idea?
Yeah.
Good.
I think we should have, well, the Pier Marketplace, not the Pier Marketplace, but what's that other restaurant there? The Coast Guard House. Now, they wanted to build one, and they voted it down. Now, that would be a great thing for us to have an ice skating ring there where he wanted it, at no expense to us. So we should approach him again as far as having an ice skating ring. And also, we should get to somehow to get a pier built so that Narragansett Pier could be really called Narragansett Pier. That would extend tourist season right on through the winter. People go fishing off it, and it would be a good thing. And also serve as a breakwater so that the surf wouldn't be so rough. And thank you.
Thank you, Al. Brian?
Nice to see you again, Mr. Alba.
Well, I'm not a happy camper tonight.
Brian, can you say your name for the
Brian
record?
Holland, 113 Colonel John Gardner Road, Bonnet Shores. As you know, you're doing a reevaluation, and when I got home from Florida, I was lucky to get away for the winter. I got home the middle of April, and I got my reevaluation, and I was not happy. My house went up $218,000, which is absolutely ridiculous. I got houses around me who are newer, have garages, and theirs are probably $100,000 less valuation. Same view as me. The people who did this evidently never got out of their car and looked at the houses side to side, seeing that this house has a garage, this one doesn't. It does make a difference. The house is newer, it does make a difference. But evidently they didn't care, they just drove by. And I think the council should step back before you do this reevaluation and check out this company, because they did a terrible job. And I called them. When I called them, they said, it's too late for you to have an interview. You'll have to talk to the town. So I wasn't too happy about that. Now, I stopped 2 weeks ago to pay my taxes. And while I was there, I said, can I talk to anybody about the reevaluation? They said, oh, yeah, down the other end of the counter. Well, I talked to two nice young ladies in there, and I was talking to them. Some gentleman came out of his office and got into the conversation. Never said who he was, but got into the conversation. And he said, well, what's the valuation of the houses? What are they sold for on your street? So I looked at him and I said, who do you work for? Do you work for me, the town, or do you work for the reevaluation company? Because that's what it sounded like when he was talking.
Right.
He didn't care what I had to say. So I'm not a happy camper, and I know people are getting lawyers, so I think this is something you should look into before you go with this rate hike, because it is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you for your time.
Okay,
Thank you.
the appeal process, the drop-dead date for the appeal is September 29th. So you have plenty of time to appeal your assessment.
I hear what you're saying, but the new tax rate's coming out in July.
Right, right.
So-
But the thing is,
Retroactive check.
you can appeal this.
I know that. I know that. And I will get a lawyer if I have to.
And the-
I mean,
the tax
but I
rate-
shouldn't have to do this.
I understand that, but, I mean, we have to reassess the properties every 3 years.
That I know you have to reassess, and I know your property's gonna go up, but
Right.
think about it. Mine went from $500 and some thousand dollars to $800 and
Sure,
something.
so clearly there's something wrong there, all right? Clearly, you have a case for an appeal,
I
so,
definitely think there's something wrong.
I mean, you just fill a form out, and it goes to the committee, because I was on the committee for 6 years, and there is a process, and I encourage you to, follow that. I don't think you don't think you need an attorney?
And the thing is, too, my house has not changed
Right.
in over
Right.
30 years,
Sure.
outside
Yeah.
or inside. But outside, I haven't added any rooms or anything that would
Sure.
bring the rate up that
Sure.
crazy.
Yeah, some assessments went down.
Yes, and I know some of the assessments that went
Right.
down that blew my mind when people told me that theirs
Right.
went down, because they got as good a water view as I have.
Sure. I don't
And
think
they
they're
got
gonna,
newer houses.
right, I don't think they're gonna be appealing.
No.
Right,
All right, thank you for your time.
all right.
Thank you, Brian. So we may also want to think about sitting down with the tax assessor, tax collector as a council if we hear more, if there's more of a pattern to this. So any other, Pat?
My name's Pat Brady. I went by the Rotary the other day. I haven't been following lately the saga of Deepwater Wind and the salt barn, but I noticed they've just begun clearing a little triangle just to the right of the salt barn, which I understand is where the substation for Deepwater Wind is going to go. Am I correct?
Correct.
Now, a year ago, Deepwater Wind submitted a plan to the town showing the substation to the left of the salt barn where it's all asphalt now. And the place where they're constructing or proposing to construct their substation was proposed as a detention basin to control all the storm runoff from Route 1 ramps and all the new pavement and impervious area that the state has created in the new salt barn. Where is all the water going to go? The detention basin has obviously been deleted because the entire area that the substation is taking up was supposed to be a detention basin for water. Does council or anybody have an answer?
We
as
should
to
probably, Pam, go ahead.
There is a detention basin. The back of it, down land below that, is where the detention basin is. I've seen it. It is there.
Yeah, it's right behind the shed.
You saw it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right behind the shed.
Is that the area that's all washed out now?
No, I don't think it's
Yeah.
washed out.
Well, I don't know. I
No.
didn't go up there and inspect it. I mean,
Yeah.
we're dealing with the state here, so.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
Well,
I mean,
we as town.
If they're gonna put electrical components into a drainage ditch, I mean, that doesn't surprise me, so.
But if we don't do something about it, we're gonna pay for it later.
Pat, I think what I'd like to do maybe on this is I'll try to meet with Pam and Jeff and just see if maybe some kind of briefing for us to, details on what this is going to look like. As you know, I read an article in the paper this weekend that was from the Providence Journal
I don't wanna
that,
go there.
did you read it? Yeah, I mean, I probably shouldn't go there either, but I think my position is very clear on how horrible this project is for the state and for the town. And, but at this point, we've got to see how, what the state is proposing over they've linking this over state roads to this property at the salt shed. And it's just a bullying by the state.
I'm simply raising.
But I want to what I'll do is I will do that with Jeff and Pam and get, so we can have more of a.
Detail.
So everyone can see what that detail is.
I am simply raising the red flag that the drainage proposed and constructed now isn't working.
Right.
And the proposed volume of stormwater proposed to the right of the proposed substation is totally inadequate. And we're eventually going to pay for it, and it's going to look awful. And if we don't do something, but the state's not going to do anything about it.
Right.
And if we don't look and make sure it's done right, it won't be done right. That's all I'm.
Thank you, Pat. Yeah, so Pam, I'll meet with you. We can maybe schedule something on that front. Again, Pat, it was new, we just saw the article yesterday, so yeah, it's in my head, don't worry.
You know how I feel about it.
I remember.
I thought the line should have gone underground through the town.
Yeah.
We would have had total control and had money. I think we made a terrible mistake, but
Well,
it's water under the dam.
Thank you, Pat. Anyone else? All right, consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove an item from our consent agenda? Right, Steve, I was just going to remove number 1, so we'll talk about that briefly, but is there a motion to approve items 2 through 9 of the consent agenda?
I'll move that motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Item number 1 of the consent agenda, a motion to approve the request from the Narragansett Arts Guild for the use of Gazebo Park to operate and sell local original arts and crafts on Wednesday nights only from June 24th to September 9th, 2015, subject to state and local regulations.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion. Steve, the only thing, if you want to come up, what I wanted to just make sure, the idea looks great. I just want to make sure we keep us in the feedback loop on it, because it's once a week, it's for one particular use, and just let us know if, people, I'm sure we'll hear from citizens what the positive and negative feedback is. That's what I kind of want to, because it will be a change for the whole summer. So.
Yes, and I have Don Cameron here if you want to ask any questions, but
Okay.
Again, we thought it was low-key, hopefully low impact, good for the community. It's going to meet with the food truck nights and plenty of parking at the beach. These folks are going to drop off everything and then won't even be parking on the lawn area. So we think it's a win-win for the community and obviously for the arts and crafts sales. So Don
Would you
is
like
here.
to make a little publicity push for it?
Great. Come on up, Don.
I'm Don Cameron, and this is Beth.
How are you? Good.
We got together a couple months ago, thinking after we lost a few events where artists get to show their art and crafts, and thought that it was unfortunate and it ought to be an opportunity to do something here in the town on a regular basis. So we came up with the idea of doing a weekly event, which would be small, involving 11 artists, crafters, and one space for a community booth where a nonprofit or something like that could have a space at the show each week. And by keeping it small, we thought it would not generate a lot of traffic. It would be manageable. We could make sure that each week we would have 12 artists there. And I think it would be a really kind of fun event for not only the people who live in the town, but all of our visitors, summer visitors, and summer folk who come to this community, of which I was one for many years, but I've been a permanent resident here now for 8 years.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Excellent. Steve, great. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, our public hearings, I see the court reporter, so we'll have her get a few minutes to set up. And I think our first item is just a scheduling, so as she's setting up, we'll probably do that. So we have a motion to schedule a public hearing on a petition from Southwind Corporation, DBA, doing business as Coast Guard House, to expend alcoholic beverage service.
I'll move that motion.
Second.
Discussion? And do you have a date that you're thinking for that? The one we're scheduling for this Coast Guard House?
June 1st or June 15th?
Is there a preference among the council?
I'd say June 1st, so they catch the summer.
June 1st.
We do have a public hearing scheduled that night for 151 Ocean Road, a zoning change.
It's usually we've done two, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Under old business is another scheduling of a hearing, and could I go ahead and do that while she's setting up? All right. Old business, item number 10, a motion to hold a hearing to approve a request from the Village Inn at the Pier Marketplace for new signage on the hotel, conference center, and on the property at the
That's not a
Village Inn.
schedule, that's for tonight.
But how can is she gonna,
Village Inn, it's not a public hearing, but it's a hearing. It's never been a public hearing. No,
why wouldn't it be?
it hasn't been since I've been here for the 6 years.
Probably because of that special
It's urban
zoning.
renewal, and it was just,
Oh, because it's part of the urban renewal of the
Special
pier.
zoning.
Okay, so I'm gonna withdraw that. We're just gonna do the regular ones. I apologize. I thought it was a
problem.
scheduling. I'm sorry. Take your time.
Glad to see you can make it, Ray.
I apologize.
We missed you.
Can't beat that Boston traffic.
Oh, yeah.
a public hearing on the application for a secondhand license from Mark DeSantis doing business as Plethora at 140 Point Judith Road, Unit A2. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Do we have our applicant here? All right, the attorney will swear you in, sir. State your name, please.
Mark DeSantis.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was looking to open a secondhand store.
Could you speak
Could
more
you
into the...
speak more into the mic,
I
please?
think,
Okay, is that better?
Thank you.
is it on? Is there a red light on there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
To sell secondhand items, pretty much anything, any type of household items, besides, no bedding or anything like that. Just like antiques, collectibles, and some unique items that you don't see every day. Pretty basic business. It's similar to what was in there previously, but a little different. Just pretty much keep it simple. But all secondhand items, nothing new at this time.
Great. If we, what we'll do is we'll see if anybody has anything to add, and then if you could just kind of stay on the side there, we'll call you forward if we have questions. Is there anybody who would like to speak on this application? All right. So if there are any questions from the council of this individual?
You, good luck.
All right, great. So we'll have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now, do I have a motion on the application?
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good luck
you.
with your business.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Next, we have a public hearing on the Town of Narragansett fiscal year 2016 budget. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. What we're going to do is with our first individuals to speak, we'll turn things over to Pam and our Finance Director, Laura Kenyon, to give a briefing on the budget.
Thank you.
And go ahead.
As you know, this has been a very long time. We've been putting together our budget for 2015-16 since October, really. A lot of changes, a lot of hard work. I personally want to thank our Finance Director, Laura Kenyon, for all of her truly exceptional work. I think you've done a wonderful job of keeping this budget in line for this year. The town of Narragansett is dedicated to providing quality services while promoting our seaside way of life and protecting our historical heritage while keeping taxes low. The budget is prepared with the following core values: productivity, integrity, respect, and fiscal responsibility.
Pam, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. We do have copies of the budget for the public.
Yeah, there's in the front seats here.
In the
and
front
some
seat
back,
here, there's
some in
copies of the budget.
Right behind Stan, there's a whole pile.
And
if
behind
anybody
you,
wants
Stan,
it.
there's copies as well.
Yep, there are. And you can take them with you. I'm going to just quickly go over the budget increases that we had in the 2015-2016 budget. Our operating expenses are up $410,000. Our pension is up $322,000. OPEB, $311,000. Debt, $311,000. Town 1966 is the police pension. It's an old pension. It's closed, but we still have people in it. That's up $228,000. Grant match reserve. In essence, the grant to match is going to be for the ladder truck for the fire department, but we have $225,000 to match the grant that we're in line for to get a new ladder truck. Our capital budget is up $225,000. The library added $206,000 to its expenses this year. And our personnel and benefits went up 80,000 for a total of 2,318,000. Property reval. The town is able to capture the increased popularity and the market values of property in Narragansett to offset an increase of funding for town services. The overall tax increase is slated at 1.4 million, which represents the increase in market values as a result of a property revaluation. The tax rate is proposed to be lower in FY 15-16 than it is in our current budget of 14-15. Property reval continued. If a house increases, this is important, if a house increases $10,000 in market and assessed value, the tax bill will increase $100 a year. This is just to make it simple. The math is simple. If your home increases $10,000 in market value, the tax bill will increase $100 per year. The increased market value is worth 100 years of tax increase. The town is able to take advantage of our good financial operations of the past years and offset the additional funding for pension and for OPEB contributions. The use of $1 million of the unassigned balance, our fund balance, for the overall town budget, allows for 100% funding of the annual recommended contribution. When we're talking about the pension, you often hear the term ARC, A-R-C. What an ARC is annual recommended contribution to the town pension. So 100% funding of the ARC and the police 1666 pension, and 50% of the ARC of other post-employment benefits. That's what OPEB is, other post-employment benefits. Here's our pension chart that shows how the funding has risen from between about 50% in 2011 up until 100% funded to what our actuaries determined was 100% funding in 2015. Our next slide is on debt increase. For new projects, this 2015-2016, the roads, 4.1 million, and an additional 2.3 million of the 17 million that's already been authorized for new roads in Narragansett. The high school athletic field, 1.8 million. This is what's increasing in this budget for 15-16 over 14-15. And the public safety building, $2 million. Our total increase for 15-16 is $311,500. Now we have capital and transfer increases. Our capital program this year, we were able to put another $175,000 in there. We reinstated the money to the towers in the amount of $50,000. That's for capital projects. And we have a transfer going to the library of $206,000. The next chart shows you the capital improvement plan amount. Now, as you can see, in 2011, we were over $1 million, and we continually went down, including our current year budget of 14-15. And we're headed in the right direction now. We're going back up. So we wanted to make sure that you know that we're putting the money back into our infrastructure and our fleet and our buildings in Narragansett. Personnel cost, wages, taxes, benefits, $80,000. Town pension and OPEB costs, $633,000, for a total of $713,000. Notable changes in other expenses. Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, is going to cost this town $84,000. The increase in vehicle repairs and maintenance, we're taking that up $40,000. If I remember correctly, Laura, this was really because we had such a hard winter that we had a little bit more to fix in our trucks. We have a new temporary finance position. This is not a new employee. It is an independent contractor who will work for us part-time and do projects in the finance department. We need somebody that has an accounting degree, and we need it badly. So I have been fighting for that position. But again, we didn't add an employee. Our tax assessor right at this moment is an independent contractor. and we pay him $57,000. And he does not contribute to OPEB or pension. And we have a Superfund liability that's been moved to the general fund. This was just an accounting move. It was in another place in the budget last year, $87,000. So if you look at this chart, FY 2016 recommended tax levy and enterprise rates, and you will see property tax levy is one of our revenues. We're advocating for no change, so there'll be no change in the tax rate with our new budget. Water use rates, there'll be no change in water usage fees. Wastewater rates, no increase in wastewater fees. Beach facilities, no increase in additional fees for the beach. And motor vehicle tax remains the same. It's $6,000 exemption. We have just a few meetings left. We've concluded our budget workshops, even meeting last Saturday. The yet to come tonight is the second public hearing on a town budget, May 4th. We have an ordinance that has to be read for the first time on May 18th, and the second reading and adoption of the budget will be June 1st. The budget highlights, well, at least what I think are Laura and I think are the highlights of this budget. We've funded 100% of our pension ARC, annual recommended contribution, 50% funding of OPEB annual recommended contribution. Just for your knowledge, we have a contracted with our actuaries to give us an accounting of our OPEB, so that this time next year we'll have a better fix on our OPEB, what we should be putting into OPEB. We have the new capital projects that we've funded, the athletic field, the roads, and the public safety building. And this year we took $1 million out of our fund balance and $1.4 million from the property reval to bring down the tax rate. And that is a capsule view of our budget. And again, thank you, Laura. You did a magnificent job in keeping it. When we began this, I really didn't think we could keep it the way it is, pretty level, a little bit lower than last year. Thank you.
Thank you. So the council, as Pam mentioned, had 4 work sessions on the budget. We spent a lot of time looking through this, had a lot of different philosophies at the table. I still encourage people at home to come to the work sessions. They tend to be poorly attended, so we don't have a lot of feedback from the public at them, but I know that all the council members are talking continually to people in the town about what they think about the budget. So as Laura and Pam have talked, I wanted to thank them both for their efforts. Different kind of the highlights on my end. You've got capital, you've got the ARC, which is the annual required contribution. You know, I always look at, my goal going in is to keep taxes as low as possible on the community, so I kind of go in with that point of view on it. And we've come to what I think, with everyone's kind of voices in there, a budget that keeps a little bit more in the capital. We're funding the ARC, and
Taxes are
keeping
down,
the
Matt.
taxes and
They're
keeping the
down.
taxes as low as we can. So on that end, I don't know if other council members want to speak to the budget, or if members of the public, obviously the hearing for the public as well. So that's on my end.
All set? Okay. We got 2 of them coming up, Matt.
I nodded at Stan and Brian. You didn't even raise your hand.
I'm sorry.
But we'll let you go.
Okay. My name is Richard Vangamish, and I'm speaking as a Finance Committee member on behalf of the Chairman, Harris Chorney, who could not be here tonight. The Finance Committee wants to provide input now, as opposed to last year when we provided input during the process. Well, we might speak again at subsequent budget meetings. At its last meeting of the Finance Committee, we reviewed the manager's proposed budget, which, as you know, assumes a 2.75% increase in the tax levy and a 0.25% increase in the tax dollars collected. Although the increase in the tax levy is assumed to come through increases in assessment, we just heard one person not happy about the assessment, and no increase in the tax rate, it is still a tax increase for many, obviously.
Correct.
The Finance Committee observed that the absolute dollar amount increase in property taxes of $1.4 million and the about $1 million appropriation from fund balance goes almost entirely to fund salary increases and employee benefits, both pension and OPEB, and that there is a very little increase for non-bonded capital improvement projects. The committee appreciates the managers and the council's efforts to minimize increases in non-salary benefit costs, such as the efforts to address the unfunded pension and OPEB liabilities, both which still combine to between $90 and $100 million, even after the changes were negotiated in 2 recent contracts. We sound like a broken record, which I agree, but the fact is that combined benefit costs, pension, and OPEB continue to be unsustainable and a substantial drag on the town's annual budget. As the cost of these benefits continue to be unsustainable, and as the town continues its attempts to fund such unsustainable benefits, at times at the expense of other initiatives, particularly capital in nature, it is the view of the committee that is not able to support the town-managed proposed budget. We believe there are a couple of areas that the town council should review, even at this point. These areas are, and the proposed increase in funding the pension liability is based on the amount of covered payroll that is higher than what is included in the NIHOT funding report. NIHOT, for those who don't know, is the actuarial advisor to the town. This results in a higher amount of funding than required by the funding plan. Conservative, yes, but what is the right number to use? This discrepancy should be investigated before the budget is approved. The budget includes $500,000 for OPEB funding, above which that is required for as a pay-as-you-go. The committee believes that since OPEB cost is unsustainable, and that's the understatement of the year, that the town should not fund any additional amounts above a pay-as-you-go basis until such time as the benefit plans can be negotiated, or more importantly, renegotiated, to result in a cost that is a much more sustainable level. The proposed budget includes an amount for education that is level funded from the amount provided last year. Level funded means it's the same amount. The committee believes that the council should determine what the state minimum mandated maintenance of effort calculation is to determine if that amount, which is lower than the amount included in the proposed budget, and if it is, that the town council should fund it to that level. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Richard. Laura, can you address, because it came up in the work sessions that got a lot of airtime, the range of the arc from the 4.9 to the 5.8, and what those, to address Richard's point?
Absolutely. The NIHART report gave us a dollar amount for an ARC, which was $4.9 million. And then it also gives us a percentage of payroll at 42.9%. Knowing what our payroll was going to be at 42.9%, it would bring our ARC up to 5.7 million. Listening to what the Finance Committee did have to say, the town council looked at both numbers, and you actually came right to the middle between the two numbers, and you are funding the ARC at $5.4 million. So in listening to the Finance Committee, you actually did come to that conclusion.
So to that end, just to wrap up that part of the conversation, we spoke about that. My position was, under the funding improvement plan, we could go to the 4.9, the low end. However, there's a lot of different philosophies on the council, and we compromised, so the public knows, compromised at the 5.4. So, Brian.
Boy, am I glad I took my blood pressure medicine today after listening to that story. Couple of questions. I want to know why you have a contractor doing the job that the tax assessor should be doing. Why don't we have our own tax assessor? Who is watching out for us in the town? He must be the guy I talked to.
Right, we're between assessors right now, and because of a contractual problem with the union that position belongs into, we reached a settlement that we would keep a contractor in place until after the 1st of July. I can't talk about it because it's union and it's privileged and confidential, but Mr. Booth, who sits as our assessor, as an independent contractor, was Newport's, the city of Newport's assessor for 30 years. He's considered to be the best in the state. I know him. I know his work to be extremely good. I'm very happy with him, and he certainly is very conservative, and frugal is a kind word, and I've never known him to give away a thing. So I think that he's doing, I really think that
How
you
many
can be
hours a week
assured.
does he actually work?
Oh, probably 3 days a week.
How much are you paying him?
Right now, 57,000. No OPEB,
I'd like
no,
to have a
no
job for
benefits.
3 days a week for 57,000
3 days
too.
a week, but no pension, no OPEB costs are added.
He
no
probably doesn't
benefits.
need it. He's probably got it from his other jobs.
No benefits are involved,
Right.
that's why. But quite honestly, it's a problem with the union, and where we go from here is something we are working
Well,
on.
I like to hear you say those things because I was a union person and
Oh, great. We're
So
honoring
it's-
the union, yes.
So
We are.
you're not getting anywhere with me with that one. It just, I sit here and I listen and you saying the tax rate's not going up. Tell me that when I get my tax bill, where it's going to cost, after just listening to what you were saying, it's going to cost me over $2,000 more this year, over $2,000, and that's me. Now, you go up and down my street, which I definitely think we were discriminated against, because where we are in Colonel John Gardner.
Well,
Definitely.
Well, quite honestly, the properties that have risen in this community, in this reval, are water properties. They are water
Oh,
properties.
I'm not on the water.
Right, you must have a view.
Oh, that's terrible, huh?
No, not at
That's
all.
terrible.
How lucky you are.
Yes, how lucky I was 40 years ago when I bought this house.
Yes.
Yeah. So now I'm paying because you can't balance your budget or whatever it is, but this street alone in Bonnet is being raked.
Right.
I got people getting, their taxes are going up 400 to 500,000. I'm going up 200 and some thousand, 218 to be exact.
In your value, so that when you go to sell it, if you decide to sell it, you
yeah,
have that value.
You know, I want to hear that. That you sound like the guy I talked to that day. What's the house up the street? Did somebody sell one for 600,000, 800,000? That doesn't mean I'm going to get 800,000 for my house.
Right.
I get an older house. These are newer houses I'm talking about that are valued less than me.
So I think one thing we want to look at, I hope that Brian's experience too with the customer service, if we get a new employee in the finance department, we can definitely improve on that.
I think that he's
we
talking
wanna-
about somebody he ran into on your street.
No, it was someone at town
No?
hall.
No,
So
at town hall, when I talked to the two young ladies who were in the
Okay,
tax assessor's
okay.
office there, they were very nice. It's the gentleman who came out, and I'm willing to bet it's him.
right, so we don't know, but we'll want it with the new employee and we want to improve that customer service element, and then. go
Mr.
from
Holland,
there.
I've worked with Alan Booth on several occasions, and he's usually cordial and professional. May have caught him on a bad day. I don't know what the situation was.
Well, he's lucky he didn't catch me on a bad day.
I understand your frustration,
Because-
but I implore you to please appeal this.
I will, but the thing is, when somebody comes out and gets in the middle of a conversation and
Right.
does not identify themselves, and they're supposed to be working for the town,
Correct.
and evidently when I said to him, do you work for the town or do you work for the assessor? I guess I was right when I said the second thing. He is working for the assessor, he's not working for us.
Right, well,
Thank
he
you for
is
your
a
time.
contracted employee, and his resume speaks for himself, and he is generally a...
Patrick, he may have the best resume in the business, but that still doesn't mean he's working for the town.
And I know Bonnet got hit pretty good. I mean, and to the town's defense, now hear me out here. Now, a lot of properties are sold. The reevaluation was conducted from June to December of the last year, and there has been a lot of sales in Bonnet, and a lot of properties sold in that area
Well,
where you're in.
Guess what? There's going to be a lot more.
Okay, well, it's based on sales. It's based on sales, square footage, condition. Clearly, there's a problem with your assessment.
Oh, not just mine.
Okay, well,
My
then-
neighbors next door.
Well, I implore them to all file an appeal and
Because
just
it is
go down there.
out of whack.
Right. And there is a process. I mean, and
I
the
know
drop
there's a
dead-
process.
The drop dead date is September 29th, because
The thing I'm trying to get across, and evidently I'm having a tough time doing it, is how do they make this kind of a mistake when I have a house sitting right next door
Right.
to me that's bigger than my house?
Right.
It's a 3-story house, has a garage,
Right.
and it's valued at probably $75,000 to $100,000 less than me, and it's a newer house.
I'll tell you how. A Vision Appraisal, who does the reevaluation, right? They have, how many houses? 9,500 maybe houses they're reassessed and businesses? 7,500. Yeah, thousands, all right? Just under 10,000, let's say, okay? Generally, they're college kids, probably making 10, 12 bucks an hour, and they probably do 100 houses a day. So they're gonna miss stuff, they're gonna add stuff, they're gonna take away stuff.
So in other
there are
words-
mistakes that are made. That's
They're not qualified, the people that are doing it.
Well, I mean, when you pay somebody a certain amount to do this, because otherwise, if we went into every house and did a precise, floor plan on every house.
Patrick, it was a ride-by. It was not
Right.
they didn't go into the
I
houses.
believe it. I'm on your side.
No,
what
but
we'll
what I'm
do-
saying
We'll
is,
sit
it was
down.
just a ride-by.
Sure.
It was not they
I
did not go
believe
in
it.
the houses.
I believe it.
And I
believe it.
saw them in the summertime.
Sure.
I didn't see one of them get out of his car.
Sure, I believe it. They go by, a lot of times they go by what was on there previously.
So what we'll do is we're going to sit down, we'll make
Thank
sure,
you.
thanks, Brian. We'll sit down and look into exactly what the process was for some of the waterfront properties.
I'd like to-
Because this is a concern that a lot of the waterfront property owners have got.
Now, I'd
So,
like to expand on Mr. Holland's reasoning here, because, I mean, I know it's touted that we're not raising taxes, but we are raising taxes. The assessment on a whole went up 2.85% across the board in the town of Narragansett. Now, in common sense mathematics, the mill rate should go down on the residential side, $9.75. On the commercial side, the new mill rate should be $14.63, okay? But in Rhode Island municipal math, a reevaluation every 3 years, they kind of get a buy, and they kind of state that, hey, there's not a tax increase. But to me, it's a tax increase, and I'm on your side, Mr. Holland. Thank you.
Stan.
I do want to say that I do commend town manager and Laura for what they have done. This budget was very readable. It certainly was a help for me to be able to look at it and try to understand it a little easier than normal. And I listened to a lot of the people speak, and then everyone seemed to be very careful in trying to keep their budget in line. The employees and the manager and Laura are doing their job. They're really doing their job.
That's right.
They've done a fantastic job. They tried their best. And now it's up to you to follow through on some of your possibilities here. So I just looked through, try to get a list of, because the fact of the matter is, the taxpayers will be paying more money. That's the bottom line. I don't care what the rate is, all that we are going to be charged more money to live here in Narragansett. The bottom line. Sounds good because the tax rate isn't going up, but he emphasized that, and that's happening. That's going to happen in many places, obviously. So I just have a few questions on possible. I looked at some of the details. I think page 46 was the towers. All of a sudden, we're going to give back $50,000 to the towers. And, you know, the towers, if it was just starting, if it was an entity just starting, I'd say fine. It needs, you know, most businesses takes 5 years for them to get profitable. But this has been operating for a while. The rental income by now should be covering all the expenses and capital improvements necessary. And if it's not, then we have to manage it better, increase the rents, do what we have to do to rent it out more. But by now, we should have had that in place. Therefore, if you give them the money, they will not react fast enough. So don't give them the money. Now they'll go out and they'll have an incentive to rent that thing at the appropriate number to get the money. Take that $50,000 out. There's one number, just take it out. Another thing that's been on my list for years and years was special appropriation. And I understand charitable events. Special appropriation, I think that's page 45. Special appropriation, I think it's $165,929. I understand being charitable, but I want to make the choice of the charity that I want to give to. I don't want government given to a charity of your choice. In fact, it has a bad connotation there, like you're given to a charity. Are you given to a charity for political reasons that they won't go out there and get you voted in? Doesn't sound good. You're giving my money to charity of your choice. I don't agree with that. And I noticed some of them, like I guess it's $120,000 to senior citizens issues. And I understand food and whatever for senior citizens. But I tell you, Meals on Wheels are out there for senior citizens. South Kingston has a beautiful facility out there for senior citizens. I don't believe the senior citizens in this town need that kind of support. $165,000 out the door. If you want, and I asked that before, we can put it on the TV, we'll put it on the website. Put these charities on the website and ask the taxpayer to send them money because you're going to take money out. Put it on the website. Give them a free ad. But don't take my money to put to your benefit there. Then I heard about, another item, fixing a roof at the library. I went to a building on 63 Kingstown Road. Now that needs a roof. You look at that roof, there's shingles missing on that roof. 3-tab shingles missing on that roof. You got architectural shingles on there. Boy, those are tight. There is no problem with shingles. There is no $50,000 bill there. Yeah. That's a flashing job, $5,000, unless you're going by some union wages, I imagine it's happening at 10 or 15. $53,000 for a flashing job? Forget it. That isn't happening. You look at the flashing. It's a flashing issue for sure. You look at it. There's nothing wrong with those shingles.
Right.
So take that 53 right out of that. Go on. Next thing, building fund. You want to design, 50,000 design, I guess that was worked somehow in there. You know, a library is for books, tapes, quiet activity. I went to the library. I went there because I couldn't stand the noise anywhere else. I had to really concentrate on my homework. Quietness, and if you go there 90% of the time, it's nice and quiet. They run a class out, you know, and I'm not gonna, they run a class operation. And I gotta commend them. They come in here and they want to expand. They want to do more for the community. And I understand that. And I'm so proud of them. And I'm so happy they're doing that. At this time, if you go in there, most of the time, it's nice and quiet, people doing what they're doing. However, I understand that they want lectures, movies, speeches. They get all kinds of things they want to do, and it's so right to have that. But there's other ways to accomplish that. We don't need an auditorium. We don't need a new library doing that. Maybe what we need to do is take the unused high school auditorium, and that's where we put all the lectures, movies, all these other activities that in the past were not part of a library. But if they want to do it, and I'm so happy they do, let's utilize that underutilized high school, whether we use the cafeteria, whether we use a classroom for instruction, whether we use the auditorium for the movies and the lectures. That's where that should happen, not disrupt the quietness that we have here. So there is other options. And they've noted that. I've heard them say that, something about the O'Brien building. Okay, then there's a part of a building at the elementary school. Maybe they can also have some of that go there.
So Stan, on the library piece of it, I don't want to interrupt you, but on the library piece of it, we're going to have a work session with the library in the summertime. There's a lot of different points of view in town about the future of the library, whether it should go to bond, very different points of view in the council. In terms of the capital budget that you've referenced, there were two basically $50,000 items, one of which was for a roof, one of was a design for a new building if the building moved. What we did was we left one in and we said either or, because either you're going to stay where you are or it's going to change. And that's, so there is, one of those 50,000 is gone, just so you know.
Yeah,
So
see,
that's
I
a
bet
victory
that-
for you. Two,
at least one, yeah.
$50,000 on the towers was, the council did discuss that, and because it is a historic building, for capital purposes, for capital projects, the operating, it is a very successful entity, but because of, there are different issues that have come up over time. Most recently, there was a roof issue, which we were fortunate was mostly funded from insurance money because it was related to Sandy damage. That roof damage had much of which was pre-existing. We would have had to spend a lot more on if that had not been Sandy. And I will look more closely at the special appropriation, so thank you for bringing that to our attention.
And the library has a lot of options. Even I heard about salary increase or additional salary. Obviously, what we need to do is get our high school kids involved. The most wonderful thing I ever had happen was have a library mentor me. She made me learn and want to read and caused my marks to go from C's to B's, which allowed me to go to college. A librarian did that, okay? The librarian is a special place in my heart because they are, that's really and I hate to sit up here and give them a hard time. However, there are alternatives for them to do what they got to do, and I want them.
Right.
And that's why let's expand to the, because I heard in the past something about an $8 million potential bond to build a building.
Right.
There's too many other options.
Sure.
And I'd like you to let them be aware and offer to them, they've got the high school there, they've got the elementary school there. Instead,
We're going to
focus
talk,
on
all right,
volunteer.
Stan, we're going to talk all about that, but stay on the
Volunteer high
budget.
school,
Can you stay on the budget for
Well,
us?
that's the
The
stop
library
is 50.
made, this, just let me speak for a minute. The library issue, right now, we made a choice that it's one or the other is going to happen because obviously the council wasn't going to decide that for the community without hearing from the community, so.
I just said, neither one at this time should happen until after the discussion. Neither
And,
one.
and you heard that they were agreed to that, that they're not going to start fixing roofs
And they
until
don't
they
need the
get.
50,000, no 50,000 for anything right now. They need maybe a 10,000, 5,000
Right.
flashing.
That's right.
But
That's
no
right.
50 or 53 at this time until we know exactly what's happening. So we've got to take this out of the budget. It's in here now. That's the problem. That 50, 53 is in here.
It's a
Yeah.
placeholder.
No,
That's a
no, but
placeholder.
Stan, one of the 50 is removed. It's
One.
gone.
One is
Yeah,
removed,
one
the
is-
other's a
yeah. But you still have
You, I know you want the other one out. I explained why it's not. I get it.
All right.
Stanley, the
That was
other,
discussed. You were there for the discussion.
Yeah, that's why I heard it, and that's what I was saying.
Always compromising, Stan, always trying.
I know there's a compromise, but we're going to look for alternatives.
I
I
know.
don't want to compromise, I want to look for alternatives. You know, I'd like the library to be open every day from noon to 8, so everybody participates. And it can be staffed by students volunteering. High school students should be out there volunteering to staff that thing so they get experience in the library. So we can have some, that's how we can deal with the money there. The other issue is, there was a little confusion on my part with school. I think think it's 47, 40. You know, I hate to do that too, you know, it's such a fantastic school, and Superintendent Sapali is such a beautiful person. She's such a smart person in finance. I think she's one of the few superintendents that really understand numbers. So I really believe that they're fantastic. Of course, initially what triggered the whole thing was the article that I read here. Something about there's a $3.2 million surplus that we can use for an ice skating rink. There is a surplus in the school budget.
That was my idea. I had to talk to the school committee to get Al's ice skating rink.
You're not going to get a reaction from me on that, and I can't help that. Is when I hear the word surplus, and now it's kind of hidden in an undesignated fund balance, undesignated fund. Let's understand, that's a balance, that's a surplus. That is money you collected that you really didn't have planned. You're taking my money and putting it in your little bank.
In terms of the school budget, so the school committee budget, if you don't like their fund balance, you should go to them and tell them to use it on the ice skating rink. If you talk to us about our fund balance, the town's fund balance, if you have a problem with that, we can't change the school fund balance.
I'm trying to discuss the budget as a whole.
No, that's fine, but the thing is, we can't change the 3.2. But if you have an issue with our fund balance, go ahead.
I have an issue that one of the issues, the confusion that I have is that in your department, a school department, I see here a $1.9 million fund balance submitted. So in other words, they, even after all is said and done, submitted for 2015-16. On page 47, it says $1.9 million school balance. So obviously they have excess money sitting there. 1.9 million sitting in the school. It's sitting there. It's a balance. Then why are we going out for a bond of 1.8 million? What are we doing getting a bond, getting a mortgage at why did you authorize a mortgage at 1.8 when we've got 1.9 million sitting there doing nothing? Right. What's the common sense? Explain that to me. What are we doing? Why are you giving, there should be no spending on any bond unless it's needed. And right now, you've got 1.9 million sitting there. Right. Now, if I go back on this budget thing here, in 2014, there was a fund balance, $5.5 million. The school was sitting on $5.5 million.
Again, Stan,
it's not
you
your
need
fault.
to go to the school committee.
And let me tell
that
you,
amount is, we cannot, that is already money that's in their side. They're independently elected. Let me talk. They're independently elected. They have they have their meetings on Wednesdays. I mean, those are opportunities. We level funded the school this year. That's what we did.
And I want to commend Superintendent Sapala because she was so frugal with her activity over there that she accumulated this kind of money. Right. Hallelujah, she's great. She accumulated that kind of money in there. Okay? But now I say, I don't believe that you should be funding any bond. There should be no spending on any bond anyway. Just because you had it approved by all the voters, they get out there, they organize very well. There's a lot of people who organize very well. They organize very well, and they kind of conned us into saying we needed some money from a bond, when in fact the money was right there. Right. Is that a lie to us? Right. They said they needed money.
Thank you, Stan.
That's right.
Therefore, I say...
We haven't, and it's still not done, right, Laura? Can Laura speak to the school bond just for a minute, please?
It's not funded yet, Stan.
It's not funded yet.
It's a not to exceed,
That's
it's a not to exceed number, and it's not funded yet.
And
And
that's
it's
why
still,
I'm
we're still in the middle.
standing here because you have not made that choice. This budget's being discussed. Right. And that means there's an opportunity for us to say, hey, we got it there. It doesn't have to be done. Yeah, the voters will con on it, but we're gonna do the right thing. Okay, that's enough with that. I guess I'll get off the school for you. But again, I want to commend the superintendent for doing what she did and having all this, because she had a 5.5 million. In 1450, she had a 4.5
All right, Stan, thank you. I've got to
million.
let some other people talk
no,
now.
well,
Yeah,
I just have one more. I just
Go
have
ahead.
one more thing. I have a question.
yeah.
This time I have a question. And it's on page, I didn't think you had a lot of people, so I thought that I had extra time here, you know? I don't see anybody coming up here screaming to get me off this thing. But,
We're going to change the chart to give you filibuster
Sue
power.
is coming up from behind
No,
you.
I just, you know, I didn't want to bother you at the work sessions. I didn't want to bother you.
What page are we on, Stan?
You know, now, page,
Maybe we should start charging you, Stanley.
There you go.
well, it's details, I mean, you
It's
know,
another quarter in.
If anything I say is wrong, please sit me down and say, give me an answer, just let me know where I'm wrong. And 49, page 49.
49.
Okay, page 49. Now, there was a little confusion on my part. The confusion on my part was, we have a 14-15 budget of $52,601,000. That's the budget, that is the budget for last year, I guess. Then I noticed we have a year-end projection of 52,045.
Right.
So that appears to be, so it looks like even though we thought we were gonna need 52,600,000, it looks by the year end, we only are gonna need 52,045? Is that a year-end projection?
Yes.
As of June?
That's a year-end projection, yes. It's a little lower than the budgeted amount.
A little, you're talking.
Little bit.
You're talking like, 500, where is it?
555,000.
So 1%. So 1%.
550,000? Is that 500?
1% of the budget,
Yeah.
yep. So we were under
That's
budget.
$500,000. We have $500,000 available. 550,000 we have available that we didn't think we had available. Okay? So our actual spending was 52,045. So if our actual spending 52,045, our new proposal is 54,919. The difference I calculated was 2.8 million, or an actual tax increase of 5.44%. Only because I
And Stan, you heard the increases in the presentation. There's capital increases, there's increase in the ARC.
I think Laura based it on, did you base it on 52601? Well, see, she based it on the budget, but it should have been based on the actual expenditure. Never mind
That
what the
hasn't
budget
happened
says. I
yet.
love her for the budget. She's really good.
Stan, just so you know.
Okay.
That projection is done somewhere around the beginning of December. So I can only guess at what I'm going to end the year with as I go through. You will notice, actually, the contingency is the one line item that was not spent, the 300,000. Again, it's a contingency. If we don't use it, wonderful, it'll go to fund balance. We'll use it again in next year's budget, which we're able to do this year. But that's almost 300 of the 600 that's out there. So the balance is really maybe 0.5% that we may actually be frugal in our spending, that we might be able to recoup and, again, appropriate to next year.
So you don't think it'll be 500,000? You think it'll be closer to 250,000 extra?
Well, if your contingency is in case you need it, and that's 300,000 of the 600 that is projected to
And I
not
didn't,
be
and
spent.
you notice
so-
I didn't argue about that. You know, fund balances, I was arguing about it. I saw the 300,000, you notice I didn't say anything about the 300,000, because I thought that's pretty appropriate to have that. I really agree with that, you know? But if it turns out, if your projection, and I believe your projection is going to turn out real good, and that we're going to have $500,000. Well, I believe it's going to happen, because you're pretty good at this. So we've got $500,000 sitting out there. But in any event, though, we're looking at, it seems to me we're looking at closer to a 4.5%, maybe 4.5% increase in tax recovery from our pocketbooks out here. The taxpayers in Narragansett are going to see 4.5% more money coming out of their pocketbook. I don't care what the rate is.
Well, the state cap's 4%, so
Yeah, I don't, so maybe.
Thank you,
let's get
Stan.
the
No,
figures.
and we,
So I want
and
you
each
to make
person in
more
town,
cuts.
because of the revow, some are going to pay less, some are going to pay a lot more, as we've heard tonight.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's,
you know, that's another
it's
issue
very-
that I really
yes.
worry about, because sometimes I think that is almost a scheme, in other words, to be able to perpetuate grabbing more money by divide and conquer. Divide and conquer was good in the military also. You divide the people into high level, low level, you divide it. So you only half the people have sort of increase, but the other half going nuts, okay?
Right.
Bottom line is, a lot more money is being taken from the taxpayer right now. And I want you to and all I'm saying is, take more money out of here.
Right.
Just take more money. I gave you places to take it, okay?
Thank you, Stan.
And
Stanley, again-
I hope you find even
Thank
more
you.
money, because I trust you will. If not you, especially Laura.
Thank
You'll
you.
ask her to take another 400,000 out of
Yeah,
it somewhere.
Stanley, again, we went up the assessments 2.85%. And I agree with you, the town manager and Laura's been doing a great job. They had to put up with me the last 3 weeks, and believe me, that's no easy task.
I think you're
And-
almost as bad as I am.
And this is the best we could do. There's fixed costs. There's fixed employee costs, there's capital improvement costs. These are the things, until we change fundamental government, working with employees, smarter government, these costs will continue to increase. And you can't do anything about them because we have contract obligations that we got to meet, and we did meet them. We kept taxes as low as possible. Believe me, I'm not happy. I'd like to go down to the $9.75.
That's right.
And go down on the commercial side, $14.63 where it should be. But we have fixed costs, and we're working on it. There's several things going on. I do have a commitment from this council and the administration to look into a 401K for employees and look at these different avenues. Not just bring it up in a conversation, but take a hard look at it and implement it in our local government.
We're going to be looking at 401Ks with the library board, where we have an opportunity where we can work with them, and so we're going to see that.
That's a good place.
Talk to
So-
Patches. You saw that came up, so.
And you can,
At
I
the
think you
budget
can-
workshop.
I think also, as you get rid of so-called surplus funds,
Right.
you know, if you have surplus funds, how are you going to negotiate with your employees? Hey, just sitting on a doggone bushel basket full of money.
Well, we need to,
Get rid of the surplus funds. Get rid of the 1.8.
Thank you,
forget
Stan.
it.
No, Stan, we've got to
Right.
let somebody else come forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Help me out here, people. All right. Any council members like to comment?
I think you start commenting, Stan may come back up. You know, Stan does bring up the fund balance an awful lot. What is the percentage of the fund balance at this point in time, Laura?
13?
It's at 13%. Our policy is between 10 and 13.
And
Again,
does this-
right to the middle to the 13%.
10 to 16.
10 to 16,
What I
we're in the
said.
middle at 13, I see. And who set that? That
The
rate?
council.
Okay, the last
written-
council
written-
set that.
written policy.
Okay. Is that something that this council would like to look at next term, to see if that fund balance is something that we could talk about a little bit, to see if 10 to 16 is, we're comfortable or uncomfortable with it, or?
Well, Laura, what's the standard for a municipality to have in their
The
kitty?
standard is 10 to 16%.
Son of a gun.
It was by recommendation of our auditors and Government Finance Officers Association, standard rules for fund balance.
All right, that takes into, yeah, okay.
I would be open to looking at it. Laura knows and Pam knows that I think the council, year after year, should set the budget, the fund balance. I don't think you need a policy. It should be done in the budget
I
workshop.
don't have
That
a
was my
problem
point
with-
of view at the time. That's how I think it should be
Yeah.
done.
I don't have a problem with the policy. I do think the council does pretty much set it, doesn't it? Or is that not a?
Yeah, it does, but yes. So-
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
we
just
can
saying,
look
maybe,
at
we
it.
maybe we can have a discussion. So
Right now, it's at
it would be
13.
more.
13.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm going to withhold my comment until we actually vote on the budget in 2 weeks from now, and then I'll weigh in more deep. This is a public work session and a public hearing, so I'm here just to hear from the public itself.
We did get a question on maintenance of effort for the school. Did anybody look into that?
I did ask the school for it. I don't believe it was a material amount from the amount that they already have. Honestly, I believe it was less than $20,000
Oh, I see.
from what they, have in
All
the
right, it's just,
budget.
when somebody asks, I'd like to make sure that we respond. So 20,000 roughly. That's your answer, Stan. What was that?
Well, I just want to say one more thing. Again, if your assessment went up, please appeal it. You have till September 29th. The tax assessor's office should help you. I know Mr. Holland had a bad experience, but those ladies are there to help you fill out the paperwork and tell you what you need to do. So if you have an unfair assessment, please see the tax assessor. Thank you.
Oh, here she is.
Anyone from the public else want to, in our public hearing tonight? Stan, we've heard, we got it. No, Stan, I think we have another opportunity at the first reading. So we're going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next item. Old business, item number 10, a motion to hold a hearing to approve a request from the Village Inn at the Pier Marketplace for new signage on the hotel, conference center, and on the property at the Village Inn, and a motion to receive and place on file the recommendation from the Planning Board.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Discussion, oh, sorry. Discussion, sir.
David Wilson, I'm with Sign Guild.
Can you move the mic? Thanks.
David Wilson with Sign Guild, 221 Tuckertown Road in Wakefield. Here on behalf of the Village Inn, we have 3 signs that we are replacing with smaller square footage. I think we have, I don't know where we're starting. The first sign would be the building sign, which is in the center. It replaces the existing carved sign. The new name is going to be called Aqua Blue. This is the only sign that is going to be illuminated, and it's going to be illuminated as reverse channel letter. It's going to be gold. This happens to be silver.
Yep.
You want to see what it looks like?
Yeah, looks great.
This one's silver. The illumination is in the back of that letter. It is a low voltage lighting system, and it reflects against the wall, shadowing the letters. So it's a substantial improvement over the light that's coming off the current sign. We are going to 37.5 square foot. And, excuse me a minute. We have 60 square foot of signage now. The second sign, which, I don't know where we are. The rear entrance, the main entrance sign? Okay. It's a 6.6 and a half foot high brick wall. The current signage is 9 foot, and it has 50. The existing signage is 55 square feet, and the new signage is 35 square feet. It's the same letter that you have up there, only non-illuminated. It's illuminated by the existing lighting. It has a... Pardon me? It's up in the corner. It has a 25-foot setback from the street. It actually is going to, because it's curved, it's actually going to be set back on the important part, which is the visibility for traffic, a little bit further than the existing sign. And then the sign on the back is going to be replaced. And that's a sign similar to the front sign, only it is now 12 foot by 4 foot. So it's a scaled-down version of the front sign.
So,
Hang on.
Yes, sure.
I think we're all in agreement here,
Okay,
all right? I think the signs look great, and let's just do an up and down vote.
terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0.
Love
Thank
it.
you.
Good luck.
Item number, why do I have two 10s on my agenda?
I
New
don't know.
business, we're in.
All right, next item, a motion to approve a memorandum of understanding between the town of Westerly and the town of Narragansett relative to a debris management plan, and to authorize the town manager to sign same after review by the town solicitor.
I'll move that motion.
Discussion? Does anyone have any questions for Jeff on this?
Nice work.
Great. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. A motion to authorize the town manager to sign a memorandum of understanding between the town of South Kingstown, URI, and the town of Narragansett relative to billing methodology.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Discussion. Any questions for Jeff on this?
Sounds like we're saving money. Right, Jeff? Thumbs up. Be good. Sorry.
This essentially just memorializes what we've been doing all along. It reinforces the fact that we only pay for our capital share of things that we actually use as a regional partner. And the only thing it changes administratively is that rather than pay up front for a year's worth of projected capital costs, it's more of a pay-as-you-go basis. So
Right.
SK will bill us when a capital project is actually completed. So from a cash flow standpoint, it's in our favor.
So
This
Jeff,
is something we've been asking for and working on with South Kingstown and URI for quite a while.
so Jeff, if one of the entities has an enormous need, would that adversely affect the other two entities?
It doesn't adversely affect
I mean,
them.
on the initiation of the improvement? Do you know what I'm talking about? Let's say that there's an enormous need at one of those entities in a short period of time. Do the other two pick up the same capital expenses? Do we share them?
No, the only costs that are shared, well, the costs that are shared are the what I would call the global improvements at the treatment plant itself. Let's say that they wanted to upgrade a certain process and all of us benefit from that process. Then we pay a share of that based on our flow at the plant.
Right.
If there was something specific that we wanted, for example, if we wanted a lot more capacity to double our number of customers,
Yeah.
we would pay that completely. The university
Okay.
in South
I didn't
Kingstown
see
would
that
not.
in there, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah, that would be a whole separate cost-sharing agreement.
Okay. And is that cost-sharing agreement in place, or is that just something that you?
Yeah, that language is in place in the
It is.
existing agreement.
I see.
Yeah.
Good. I didn't see it in there. I just thought it was. Thanks, Jeff.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Next item, a motion to approve the purchase of replacement parts for the Scarborough wastewater treatment facilities aeration system from the Maha Corporation in the amount of $12,104.
Move the motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. A motion to approve the replacement of 2 commercial hot water heaters along with plumbing fixtures for the South Pavilion concession area and restrooms from Stedman and Kazunas Plumbing and Heating using the general plumbing pipe fitting services contract in the amount of $13,729.
Move the motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I had a question on that one. What's the capacity of those 2 hot water tanks? They gotta be some pretty big tanks for 13,000.
Yeah, they're 65-gallon hot water tanks. They service the South Pavilion. They are for the concession stand and for the,
Right.
for the restrooms,
Yes.
and they're
265-gallon hot water tanks, we're paying $13,000 to replace them?
They're 25 years old, and they.
Oh, I don't mind replacing them, but it seems that's a little excessive.
Yeah, they're three-phase hot water tanks, and they've been there for 25 years, so these are excellent hot water tanks, so.
No, these things have a quick recovery rate.
Yeah,
They're not
quick
your
recovery.
normal.
They are quick recovery.
Right.
They serve thousands of people a day.
Oh, okay, so it's an on-demand hot
Yeah, oh,
water
yeah,
type
yeah.
system. Okay, it's just not your standard,
No,
okay.
it's not
all
your
right,
home
all right,
one.
all right, that explains it. Okay. That's still a little pricey.
It's still,
They've been,
No, it's not.
they've been,
That's
they've been
it's
telling me to
industrial.
replace these for the last couple of years. We've been
Yeah.
squeaking by
Right.
with these, so I need
No,
to
Did
get
you ever think about switching to propane? There's propane there for the stoves, right?
Well, again, these are all electric in there, so
Right.
I'd have to rechange the whole.
Yeah,
whole
right,
system
right,
in
right,
there.
right, right. All right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, Stanley. Yeah.
Did we get 3 bids? It's a little high, you know, I
Yeah.
put 100-gallon tanks, and I understand that, but I think probably the wiring is still there.
Yeah.
It's probably mine
Right.
are all 220,
Right.
240, you know. Just seems a little high. Did we get 3 bids on
Yeah,
this thing?
yes.
So
It's just,
we
Yeah.
bid our plumbing service. It's a contract with our plumbing service.
I know,
That's who it is.
wow.
But, you
No,
know,
that was
Stanley, these are industrial hot water heaters. I've replaced them in my buildings, and that's a pretty good price. There's
I'd
nothing
just
wrong
like
with
to
the price.
know- I need to know the model number, I can check on those things. It just seems a little way out. I mean,
We had to throw in the fact of replacing all the valving,
all the piping too, a lot of the
Yeah.
piping, yeah. Okay, it's a shame that somehow we lost a bid on some of these things. It's only 13,000, but I guess as we get into these, I just, some of these things that kind of look bad, I wish we could get some bidding in, somehow influence, get some bidding in there somewhere. So this fella knows that he can get kind of a deal, the next one might be even worse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stanley.
You must need 14.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Next item, a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the emergency repairs to the Point Judith water main completed by J.H. Lynch and Sons Incorporated in the amount of $27,035.81.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Discussion. There was a water main break in January, and this simply is a ratify and confirm of those repairs.
That's the bill.
So is there no recourse here at all? It's just.
Usually
It is
not
what
with
it's-
ratifying.
It is what it says in
Because it's
here.
emergency, yeah. When there's an emergency. Do you want to speak?
Mr. President, I think what Councilman Rinaldi may be referring to is the reason for these borings. As I understand from reading the after-action report, that these were core samples related to the Deepwater Wind Cable project. And so I think the Councilman is asking whether the proponent of that project would make the town whole for the damage that we've incurred. I know Jeff spoke a little bit to this issue in his after-action report, but I don't know to what extent we've spoken to Deepwater about the damage.
I just think that.
Oh, is
there-
that what you were, that?
Yeah,
oh,
I
good.
just think that there's a
Good, I like
recourse
that.
to, I mean.
Good idea.
That's a great deal of money, and I don't think it's clear cut that it's our responsibility when they dig a hole. I don't know. It may be clear cut, but I just.
Councilman, I will say it's our responsibility to pay a bill that we've incurred. However, to the extent that we have any recourse against Deepwater Wind, that would probably be considered a separate issue from whether we owe this vendor for performing the work.
Okay, no, but I mean, I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
I'm not sure where to go with it from there.
I guess the question is, it looks as though we have to go down and take a picture, an X-ray of the ground, and find out where our pipes are, in order to protect ourselves from having to pay this again if somebody else makes a mistake because we don't know where our pipes are. Or is this a simple look back in our records and be more careful about where our old curbs were compared to our new curbs?
Well, that's what led to this.
No, yeah, I read it.
The paper records that we have from the original waterline installation were simply not accurate. I mean, those predate any of us in this room, but they were not accurate. And when those lines were originally put in, that 16-inch in particular, Point Judith Road was a 2-lane road. And a lot of the survey markers were based off the edge of pavement at that time. It's now 4 lanes with a sidewalk and a shoulder, and a lot of the survey information disappeared. We marked it out where we thought it was.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was not accurate enough. So we are working with National Grid on a joint project, and that will come before you one of these meetings as well. Grid's taking the lead on that, but to use ground penetrating radar to develop a more accurate as-built plan of the utilities on Point Judith Road. And that's something that I would do with or without the presence of the Deepwater Wind project. That 16-inch
Would you do it
water lane
sooner
is
or
our main
later, or-
asset to the south end of town.
Yeah.
You know, any construction, whether it's Deepwater Wind or anyone else, we need to know where it is. We need to be able to pin it down.
Then I understand. I understand. I just thought there might be some help out there somewhere to.
So
to be able-
procedurally, basically, yeah, Ray, I guess what if a council member wanted to put on an item for indemnification, that's what we would be looking at? Is that what we?
That's right. The two distinct issues between whether J.H. Lynch gets paid for the work they did, which I think
Obviously.
everybody agrees on,
Right.
and whether Deepwater Wind should be paying the town for that damage, which would be indemnification.
So we'll look into that indemnification, and I think we should talk about at least the option.
But I have to say, in reading the report, it was a great read.
Yeah, huh?
I mean, it was really, I read it on a weekend at nighttime. It was reading like a Robert Ludlum novel. What's going to happen next? And there's a sinkhole opening up. Then there's a storm on the way and everything else. But the guy who we originally were contracted to fix it, he couldn't fix it. And Lynch came to the rescue. He found like 25 tons of hot tar in the middle of January. Where in God's name he found that? You know, it was just one of these things that went on and on. It was a terrific read. But I had to bother the town solicitor over the weekend because in the beginning of this novel, when they went in there and started drilling these core samples in the road area, it's pretty obvious that the schematics were old in the 70s. And I said, I bet you it's going to be Deepwater who caused this whole thing. And sure enough, it's Deepwater drilling down there who actually caused the break in the 16-inch pressurized main. And I couldn't help but thinking, isn't there some level of culpability, even though they are old schematics, or maybe, what they say, 5 feet off, we don't know, it's the educated guess as to their location, but isn't there some recompense there that they're liable to as well? I mean, not necessarily sharing the whole cost. I mean, Lynch did a great job, pay him tonight, cut him a check, we're overdue on that, but I just think it might be something worth looking into. I mean, you're doing old work in an old system like that. Of course it's going to be off. Yeah. So you have to take
Chris,
extra care.
You got a good point, because if we put it out there right now, today, we don't know where our pipes are. Don't drill. Let's put it out there. If you want to drill and you're in a hurry to drill, you take a picture before you drill.
And one thing, Ray, I remember that the end of this novel here, it shows like Shazam. There's a gas main there too.
Yeah, there's a gas main there. No, but really,
It was
I
great.
mean, at least for a
That's a
period of
good
time.
No, that's a good message.
At least for a period of time, we have to say, don't drill in our roads until we decide what we're going to do to describe where the pain may come from. But for today, we have to stop people from drilling in our roads. I think that's what I'm hearing from Jeff. No.
But it's
So we're
within town
responsible for
boundaries,
where
though.
our pipes are.
But it's within town boundaries. But then why would we pay for
DOT
it?
can issue them a permit to do soil borings in a state road with or without our consent.
Yeah.
And we should kind of know where our pipes are. I mean, that's what you were saying as an engineer, that we would want that information, not aside from this project, but that would be an important piece of information we would want for the town, right?
We didn't have any reason to believe that our paper records were inaccurate. Had we done that, sure, we would have taken a completely different approach to it. We were asked to mark out our lines, which we did. And then it was subsequently
So
determined
what's our
that
approach now, Jeff?
they weren't as accurate as they should have been.
Pay the bill.
What's our approach until this gets done? Do we stop? We just have the warning out there, don't drill?
I don't know about that.
Until this gets done?
I'm not sure that we can do that within the context of the
Well, we
fact that
can't
it's a
tell
state
them,
road.
yeah, but we can't tell them point certain where the issues may lie. Right. So if that's the case, then they do it at risk, or do we
Well,
They do it at our risk, or are they doing it at their risk next time?
Right, they should do it at their risk, right?
thought
if
you
it's
said
state
National
road.
Grid was
That's
gonna
a legal
do it.
argument that I don't think I'm going to discuss.
Okay.
I'm very comfortable making it.
The
I mean, I'm all set with Deepwater Wind. I just want that to be clear. I fought that project. It's a bad project for the town. At some point, they didn't cooperate with us at all.
Right.
Let's be very clear what happened.
but
And a lot of people in the state are cheerleading, and I think that we need to point out, let's get rid of the pom-poms, okay?
Yeah, but-
So I'm very upset about this project, and I know people in town are going to be very upset when they start seeing Deepwater digging up roads that are within town boundaries but are technically state roads.
Yeah, but whether it's them or someone else, I think that we need to put something out there to the state to say that we
Moratorium.
don't hold us responsible.
How about a resolution or a
until something's done, until we decide to do something.
But didn't Jeff say that he wanted to work with National Grid so that we know where things are? I mean, is that our end goal? I mean, instead of just stopping
I
it?
think this,
I just want to hear what the staff would like.
National Grid has purchased the land portion of the Deepwater Wind project. So we're dealing with National Grid now. We're not dealing with Deepwater Wind.
Yeah, Deepwater's out of it.
National Grid owns the project from the time it comes ashore till the time it gets to the switching station. They have yet to design the final conduit route along Burnside Avenue and Point Judith Road, and they won't do that final design until all the utility issues have been clarified. They know they have a gas line to deal with, which belongs to them. They know they have water and sewer lines that belong to us. Somewhere in between that, they've got to fit their conduit for the Deepwater Wind project. National Grid is the player now. We will be dealing with them one way or another. We met with them and discussed the idea of doing a joint project with ground penetrating radar so that we could all pin down the locations of our utilities, their gas line, our sewer, and our water. Our sewer's pretty straightforward. Follow a manhole to another manhole. It might move a little bit, but not much. The water line, again, we found out the hard way that it's a little different subject. I think it's an important investment in our assets to have that ground penetrating radar survey done, and we will pay only a proportionate share. National Grid will pay for their piece of it. That'll come back before you, probably not the next meeting, but maybe the first meeting in June. Grid's taking the lead on that. They're going to hire the company, and then we're working out pro rata share with them. I think that's an important thing to do either way. Even if the Deepwater project wasn't going forward, I would recommend to you as town engineer that we need to pin down the location of these utilities.
Thank you, Jeff.
Anyway, congratulations, it's a great effort by everyone. But only thing a thread that I see going through this, and you almost alluded to a couple of places, was the fact that our prime response contractor was unavailable. Are you thinking maybe in terms of making direct us on this, designating a second one, maybe the second high, second lowest bidder in case this happens again?
It would be nice to have that redundancy. Sherman was the only bidder the last time we
Oh, he was the
put
only
this
one.
job out, yeah. And this was just a case, it was just some personnel issues where they just didn't have a crew available that evening.
Yeah.
I would love to have it back up to that, Chris. And that contract, the
Put
next
it
time
on.
we put it out, if
We'll
we
put
get
it
a
on.
second vendor, we'll have that ability. But traditionally, we have not had more than one bidder on that in years.
Yeah. This was a big deal, though. This was really
This
something.
was a big deal. It also required a level of effort, beyond what a lot of the local guys can handle.
I can see that.
You're talking about bringing in the crash trucks with the crash barriers. Sherman, Timpson, a lot of the local guys don't even own those, so they'd have to go rent them that night anyway. But you bring in crash barriers, you shut down a state road. It's a lot more effort than, fixing a small water line on a side neighborhood street.
Great job.
Brian, can you come to the microphone? You got to come to the microphone.
We had Dig Safe.
Dig safe.
We had Dig Safe on this before.
Yes, DigSafe did mark out, municipalities do not belong to DigSafe. We have to mark out our own.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. A motion to approve a contract amendment with the RT Group Incorporated for supplemental engineering services for the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facilities flood proofing project in the amount of $74,786.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
Discussion. It's a commonsensical thing that we need to do.
I just had a question
Go
for
ahead.
Jeff. Yeah, Jeff, any movement with that Loma letter?
That will actually be part of this work.
Right, right.
We need to do the wave analysis and the flood
Sure.
analysis required by the Corps, and then file that with FEMA.
Right, so they haven't, they feel more of a percentage of it getting approved, or?
Not
they
yet,
haven't-
because we haven't made
Right,
application
sure.
yet.
Okay, all right, that's important.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved, 5-0. Next item, a motion to adopt a resolution amending the official list of designated stop intersections and the official stop sign map in accordance with the Narragansett Code of Ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Mike, these two stop signs are both at Greenbrier and Francis Ave intersections, is that correct?
Yes, there's currently stop signs on the east-west portion of Coffee Ave. This is just adding 2 more stop signs at the east-west section of Francis intersection.
Great. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Next item, a motion to approve a business community light pole banner sponsorship program.
Second.
Discussion, Chris?
Yeah, I just cut to the chase and read the summary here. It's over the past 4 years, the town has been purchasing and displaying a Welcome to Narragansett light pole banners in the central pier area. These decorative banners have quickly become a favorite with both local residents and seasonal visitors, bringing a festive sense of celebration to the area. They have helped the town's effort to brand Narragansett as a place to be on the regional and national stage. The banner program originated as an EDC recommended annual program with 2 targeted goals in mind. First, to foster community pride and character, and second, to help the small local business community by providing them the opportunity to be publicly recognized as a banner sponsor. While the banners have been successful adding beautification and promoting the town, they have not helped our local business community. This year, we want to change that. The basic idea is that the businesses pay an annual fee to underwrite a banner, and their name and logo will then be added to a slice of matching fabric below the banner. They will get great local exposure, and the town gets a funded light pole banner program. The sponsorship covers the production costs and provides even more revenue in following years. In short, the program transitions from being taxpayer-funded to privately funded. And special thanks and recognition go out to DPW for their banner implementation and maintenance work over the years and their creative enthusiasm towards this phase of the program. Also thanks to the town manager, the Chamber of Commerce, and the staff for their work in facilitating this proposal. Now there's a couple of, oh, there they are. That's basically what we're doing. The bottom part will be added this year by the sponsor. There'll be different colors, and there'll be more of them. That's it.
Nice.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'd like to say that we've had several meetings in my office with our DPW staff, Mike DeChico, John Zamansky, who does our signs for us. And he's quite a good graphic artist, and he came up with these. The chamber is very, very positive on this. They will handle the bottom part of the, well, let me put it this way. To begin with, the first year is going to be absolutely a learning experience. So 1 year from now, we're going to look at how well this went. The banners will go up hopefully shortly after Memorial Day. And we have the money in this year's budget, current year's budget. So We will pay for the banners. What is separate is this advertising section of it. The chamber is going to handle that. They're going to handle the promotion and get the businesses to sign up for this. So we can add these at another time. They all have little grommets on the bottom, and we're going to have carabiners to put them up. Very positive interaction between the Chamber of Commerce and the town of Narragansett to work on this project together, and everybody seems very happy about it, and it went very smoothly. Chris brought it to me from, I believe it started with the,
Started 4 years ago, actually.
that's right.
And we had a couple of trial runs. Just the top part went very well. It's now just to bring it to its original intention. But the sponsorships won't be open to just Chamber of Commerce members, any small business person in Narragansett. You don't have to be a chamber member. And we're working out some of the kinks. For instance, we know there's going to be a very high demand very quickly because the price point is going to be affordable to everyone. So we'll be limiting the amount that each business can actually purchase.
We probably should say, though, that it is limited just to business.
Correct.
No in memoriam or anything like that. This is a business communication. And it will be handled, the part at the bottom, the advertisement part, will be handled by the Chamber of Commerce, and they're in the process of setting that up now. Please remember, this first year of this new little advertising section of it is in a trial period. And we hope it works well for all involved, but right now we got a very positive thing going.
And we'll have to put an RFQ on the agenda for 2 weeks from now? Okay.
Is there a graphic designer that does this, or is this in-house, or? Okay.
The only difference is the banners themselves are 5 feet tall and 2.5 feet across. Now, the new tagline section on the bottom, it'll be 30 inches across, obviously, but about 18 inches down.
18 inches deep, so that's...
Then the local merchant, or whether it's a landscaper or a doctor or a dentist or whoever wants, as long as they're a Narragansett business person, whoever, they can have their phone number on there, their app on there, their
And are you going to have
logo.
them, the signs, the top part of the signs, are those going to be, eventually, is the company going to be able to have different signs, or is it all going to be the same?
Those are ours.
It's all going to be the same?
The top
Or-
part.
The top part.
The top part is going to be the same. Welcome to Narragansett with the logo of the
Yeah, what we
tower.
see behind you there.
Stop, or shop, dine, and stay. And then the bottom will be the advertisement. And these will last from 2 to 4 years. And the bottom part with the advertisement on it will change every year.
Oh. How old are the ones that I saw this weekend that I was...
Very
actually,
old.
Did you look at the dark blue ones?
Nothing was dark about them.
Oh, no, these won't fade. We've gone through in fact, Mr. Zemansky brought quite a few of them up to show us how this fabric, before we started using
Yeah.
some umbrella fabrics, faded.
I love the idea.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
So we've got some experience behind our belt with this now.
I remember when I was researching this years ago, and I went through upper New England, and for instance, Burlington had the same program going, Burlington, Vermont.
Okay.
But what they did, they just gave all of the light pole banners to the local cable company and the local electric company. They didn't give the opportunity to the small business person, which we're doing here. That's the idea. This is not a terror. We'll make money. It'll pay for itself quite easily, we think. But the idea behind it was twofold. Obviously, it's beautification, but it's to help the small business person. So the price point will be very reasonable for just about anyone to afford.
Do you have a price in mind?
Yeah, I don't want to commit to anything, but we're looking around $200.
$200 to $300 with the chamber, this is.
It's great for a sign that's going to be
Yeah.
up there year-round.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
The chamber's looking to find out how much, once we get the RFP in, we're gonna know exactly how much everything costs. But we do have in current year's budget enough to pay for the top of the banner. This was planned all along, but what wasn't planned was what Mr. Wilkins brought forward with the advertising for the small businesses in our community. And this feels good, this feels right, this feels like something we're doing
Yeah,
for the
this is
business.
wonderful. You
We're
know, the kid-
working as a partnership with the business
Yeah,
community.
at some point, maybe you can tie into the school system's new media relations committee. And
They could buy a
perhaps
banner.
they want to buy a, yeah, sure. Perhaps they want to be a part of, and maybe helping the young man who's actually designing these things. I get the
We
schools
actually
involved.
have
That's kind of nice.
We've discussed the idea of putting it out as a contest in the community for future banners, maybe the art classes
Yeah.
at the school.
That'd be great.
Would like to design,
Yeah.
you know, or maybe at URI, who knows, but
Sure.
design the top of the banner for us. And we'll have to replace them someplace between 2 and 4 years.
Yeah, isn't
Now,
that great?
the last
That's
meeting,
a nice program.
I think we're talking about 100 to start the first year, but we're also, next year, we're probably talking about hopefully considerably more because it's self-funding now.
Huh. I'd love to
And
see them at the north end, too.
Expand, well, that's the idea, to expand to the north end.
Yeah.
The Galilee Advisory Committee pretty much has the Galilee area
Yeah.
all taken care of.
Great.
With their own banner.
And they not all being the same, if you were to run some kind of contest and get some kind of, people interested in graphics that are in our schools and stuff, that
Yeah,
would be,
we-
that'd be a
we- we
wonderful
could look at
partnership
that.
with the schools. That's great. Wonderful idea. Thanks.
It was an EDC proposal about 4 years ago.
And the chamber worked with you guys closely on it, it sounded like, very closely. You had a big role.
Yeah, they're very excited about it.
Good.
They all think it's a pretty good way to get inexpensive advertising that's going to be there year-round. I do want to point out, because somebody will probably come forward and say, why aren't you doing this for the holidays? One of the reasons is the severe wind that we get here in Narragansett is the reason we have to go to the quality of fabric that we're going to. But also, we have one lift truck for 3 departments right now, for fire, for DPW.
We're going to have a new
parks.
ladder truck.
Yeah, we got a new
And I don't want employees up in those trucks in the winter taking down, holiday banners. So it's once a year, at the most, that we would ever change the top part of the banner. Okay? Just because it will come up, because it came up in every conversation we had.
Great.
Thanks,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All
Nice.
opposed, motion approved 5-0. The next item, appointments of individuals to the Historic District Commission for a 3-year term to expire on January 1st, 2018, and appointment of the current alternate member to fill an unexpired term ending on January 1st, 2017, and appointment of an individual as an alternate for a 1-year term to expire on January 1st, 2016, as in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 45-24-1 and Chapter 917 of the Town Ordinances. This is procedurally a strange motion because it's actually under the ordinances and the Historic District Commission's creation. The president of the council makes these appointments. So basically, I'm just going to say that I'm appointing people. The first is, for the full terms, I'm appointing Gaia Sharon, Robert Shields, and Wayne Douglas, all of whom currently serve on the commission, and Wayne is going to move up from the alternate position, which leaves an alternate position open. There's 2 individuals who have applied for that, Maura Hinsa and Ted Famiglietti. I don't know if the council has any thoughts on it, since it is an agenda
I can support
item.
Maura for that position.
Okay. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
No dogs.
No? All right, so what I'll do is I will appoint Maura Hinsa for the alternate position, and that's that. All right, thank you. And item number 19, a motion to schedule a public workshop regarding the homestead exemption on June 15th, 2015.
Oh, they're standing.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Discussion. So I put this motion on. Yeah, I put the motion on. So, and this was because we've had several work sessions in the spring. Okay, we've had several work sessions in the spring. This was the first one we had. The council in April goes through the budget, and we've had several public hearings in May. So this is our first one. We've got the library coming down the pike. And what I wanted to just point out in scheduling this and putting it in, giving people some time so they can prepare for it, we had a presentation from the EDC, and we want to get feedback from the public on that particular view of the homestead exemption. By the same token, I did hear from other members of the committee at that work session who had a different point of view about what kind of, and we all heard what they had to say as well, that the committee seemed pretty divided about the different versions of the homestead exemption. So what I want to do is make sure that this work session is targeted to feedback on those two things, okay? Basically, we're talking about what the EDC had to say, but also what other members of the EDC had to say, a clean homestead exemption, and see what the public thinks about that. Because we don't want this to be a wide-blowing discussion. We would propose something from the EDC. We're going to see what the public says about that. And then I put this item on also for a clean homestead exemption discussion, because there were members of the EDC who were very vocal about that and have talked about that in the community. So that's what I think that will look like on June 15th, 6 p.m. That being said, it's just a scheduling. Are you unhappy with us scheduling that? Go ahead.
Okay, the motion indicates that you're going to be looking for public input on that. And I know the EDC plan is out there. We've seen it. This clean version that you're talking about, I haven't seen. I don't know if, is there anything out there?
No, but some of the members spoke about it, so I want to hear what they have to say. I mean, it's basically the homestead exemption that was described by some of the members that night. So that's
is there something they
like
could
that was
present ahead?
modeled
I
on
mean-
others that, right. So again, there's not going to be a specific, it's the concept of the clean homestead exemption. In other 9 cities and towns, you were there, you heard what the presentation,
Well,
you heard what the
I
point of
realize
view
that,
was.
but how can the public come in and talk about it when they only hear about it for the first time that night? They might need time.
They're not
to
hearing
take a
about it
look
for
at
the first time. They heard about it at the work session where the members of the committee who didn't agree with the committee expressed what the clean exemption looked like.
I think Ray has a good point. Excuse me for one sec, Ray. Thank you. I heard another side also, and I agree with you, Matt. It's a good thing to have both sides talk about it. Perhaps we could reach out to those who had the adverse opinion and have them send something perhaps that we could distribute, or
Right. We'll have
there may be a way to
something
do
in
that.
advance to share on what that looks like. And again, this is still, I mean, as you know, this discussion is going to be a long discussion. And I anticipate, I just want to share with the council, I probably anticipate another work session. I don't know if an hour and a half will cover it, because we want to make it focused on the public, what their reaction is to basically the two versions that they heard that
Well,
night.
I'm sure you know, it takes time to research things and look at things. This is a situation, this Homestead Act, of legal discrimination, one way or the other.
All right,
And I
about
think-
scheduling the work session. This is
Okay.
not the substance of the issue, Ray. So what is,
But, no,
what
my
is the
point is
schedule?
this, the
Are you
discrimination
uncomfortable with us
issues-
scheduling it?
Oh, the date? Yeah, fine. The issue is that the discrimination issues are very different from this clean one to the one the EDC proposed.
Right, then
And-
we
and so
want
people
everyone
need
to speak
have
at
some
that
time to
meeting.
look at that. They need to see it ahead of
Got it,
time.
got it.
So
Thank
maybe
you.
you could have 2 different sessions that one deals with the EDC and one deals with the other one. Or put something out there so we can take a look at it ahead of time.
Thank
That's
you.
all.
Thank you. Stan.
John.
Oh, sorry, John, didn't see you.
I don't think our government, you shall pursue any activity which involves treating people unequally and discriminating against.
So you
should
don't
not
want us to
pursue
schedule a
that.
work session?
This was already vetted many years
Stan,
ago.
just say, if you, that's
You
fine.
but
We've
you
heard,
shall not-
I don't mean to cut you off. We've heard your
know,
point
but,
of view. Do
I'm
you
saying-
not want us to schedule a work session?
That's right. I do not
because
want
you
you to
think,
schedule a work session
because you
it's
think
wrong.
it's discriminatory no matter what.
This is wrong.
Got it.
Our government should not be pursuing activities that result in people being treated unequally. You shall not. If
And the council doesn't have to schedule it.
If the EDC
They don't have to schedule it.
wants to put out something, let them put it out there and gather some support and give their ideas. But right now, I don't want our government to pursue any unequal issue, any discriminatory issue. We all pay the same tax. All of us. And we should. And where we don't, we should. We should change that, but not involve more discriminatory practices. Do not schedule anything that involves discrimination.
Thank you, Stan. Thank you. John? And as John's coming up again, my rationale was the EDC presented us with something. The public needs to react to it. I also heard other members of the EDC with a different point of view. I want the public to react to that.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, we've been talking about the homestead exemption for 20 years, 25 years.
Right.
And these two guys talk about free enterprise and democracy. They don't want anybody to do anything that's going to affect their own personal taxes. I think we ought to do it the way you said.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Any discussion? Just to schedule.
No, I like the idea of listening to people. I like the idea of hearing both sides. And you know, the nice thing about listening is that something good may come out of it. So Stanley, it's nothing, we're not making a ploy to ruin the tax fairness, but we do need to listen to people and hear both sides. And I think that that's a good move, Matt. So I would be in
I'd go
favor.
further to have both sides there that night so we can hear the two opposing
But that's
sides.
why I put it out
Well,
so
that's why-
far for Rays.
Yeah.
We're gonna.
Yeah.
That's why
But
it's so far out, so we have time to
we're
get
gonna be able
everybody
to
there.
reach out to those who...
Definitely, yes. I
Okay,
will.
that's great.
I
Let's
was-
reach out
that's
to them.
why it's not
Have them submit
next
something
month,
so that we can
next
put it out
week.
to the public. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. All right.
Stanley, your taxes might go down over this. All right?
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion approved 5-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Nice job, Matt.
Ooh.